Well, hello there. I'm Skan and you're watching Pictorial Thought. Now, first things first. This is a new channel and this is the first video, which makes me both nervous and excited because this is the first time I'm in front of a camera filming myself. And I do have certain plans for this channel. Now, to introduce myself, I'm Skand and I am a professional photographer based in Jaipur, which is a beautiful city and the capital of the state of Rajasthan in India. Now, about this channel, even though the name of this particular video suggests that it's about gear, it's about equipment, and it is to a certain extent, and some of the videos to come will also be somewhat about equipment. I do not plan for this channel to be some kind of a review channel. I do not intend for it to be about gear. I've been thinking of starting this channel for quite some time now, but primarily with the idea of documenting my thoughts. I have only started in the field of professional photography, and I would like to document the process of my growth and the process of my learning. And with that in mind, I would like to discuss certain more conceptual aspects of photography, about the aesthetics of photography, about the politics of photography, and about the social aspects and the cultural aspects of photography. And I hope that you will join me in this conversation. I would love for the newcomers and the people who have just started in photography, or people who have just picked up a camera with the interest in photography, to benefit from all of this. And I would also love to engage with more experienced photographers. Now, coming to the topic of this particular video, I thought it would be a good idea to begin with something that I have just done. I've just made a major decision in my life and I've received the fruits of that decision. I am now in possession of a certain amount of gear which is very expensive and very advanced. Now, before I get to that, I would like to sort of talk a little bit about my history as a photographer. I started photography a little more seriously 10 years ago with this camera, the Zenith camera, and it's a film camera, and it was made in USSR. I don't know if you can read this, I hope the focus works, but it was made in USSR. This is a very old camera that my father picked up from the streets of Bombay long time ago. And this was a camera that I used only because I had no other choice. I could not afford a new camera, although DSLRs were already out in the market by that time, were being used by everyone. But I could not afford to buy a new camera, so I picked this one up, and it turns out it was a good learning experience. I learned how light works, and I learned that mistakes can cost. And this also shaped my experience as a photographer, and this also shaped my expectations as a photographer. My expectations with the process of photography, the experience of it. And anyone who has shot film knows that the tactile experience of an analog camera is unmatched. However, I made a shift to the digital at a certain point where I thought that upgrading is an important thing that I should do, and I should be able to take more photographs and work on my composition. And that was the time when bridge cameras were a big thing, and there were a lot of companies making bridge cameras. Nikon was making bridge cameras, Canon was making them, Sony was making them, and there were many other companies that were making them. I went with a Sony HX1. I think they still make bridge cameras, but those cameras are more towards digital cameras, as in the digicams. So they have more in common with the digicam than with the DSLR. They do not have an interchangeable lens. I worked with that camera for about 6 years and pushed it to its limits. I did everything that I possibly could with that camera, and most of it had to do with learning light, learning composition, learning color, learning how to go out on the street and take photographs of people, of things, and how to be more aware of your surroundings as a photographer. And I think that is one of the most important things that a photographer needs to learn. But after a point, I had to upgrade. I needed to learn more. I needed to learn how to handle shallower depths of field. I needed to learn how to handle different focal lengths with a more complex camera system. And that's when I started looking online. I started looking at Flickr, and that's the only way I knew how to find a new camera, was to look at the images that I loved, or look at the images that I would love to take and see which cameras they were taken with, which lenses they were taken with. And I found the Fujifilm X-E1. Now this camera at that time was not available in India, and I had to get this from eBay from US through a friend. And it's a second-hand camera, and despite everything, it is probably the most amazing thing that I have ever owned. I've spent 4 years, 3 to 4 years with this camera now, and I have done almost everything that is possible with it. I have taken portraits, I've taken landscapes, I've taken wedding shots, I've also done 2 fashion shoots with it, and it's an amazing camera. I think it's the most underrated and the most underappreciated of the Fujifilm cameras. And the 16 megapixel APS-C sensor is just brilliant, even though it is not 24 like most of the APS-Cs today. But despite all of its limitations, it's just one of the best cameras that one could hope to buy at that stage that I was in. And it's such a brilliant camera. I took it with me everywhere. I took it to places where it is not meant to be taken. I took it on hikes, I took it to beaches, I took it out during rains. It just did well, it just did very well. It gave me the best of the results that it possibly could. Again, like I said, the color science of Fujifilm, I think this camera is one of the best examples that one could get for Fujifilm color science. However, now that I'm shifting into professional photography, where the scope of mistakes or the scope for error reduces quite a lot, because every mistake costs you and your client time and money. And with that in mind, I had to look at things that could overcome the limitations of this camera. Now again, like I said, I keep repeating it, but the camera is amazing. However, it is painfully slow. It is slow to write on. The processor is slow. The autofocus is really slow, and the video is terrible. I cannot take videos with this camera. No one should, because again, the autofocus is bad and it only takes 180p. The only thing that I was sure of at that point was that I am ready to move to the best that is out there. And there is quite a lot that is out there which claims to be the best, and which probably is the best. All of these companies today, Sony, Panasonic, Fujifilm, Canon, Nikon, any camera manufacturer that has ever made anything is now competing for the mirrorless market, which is the form factor that I love to stick with, because of its compact size and the convenience of taking it around. With all of these options, I had to try a lot of things out. I did try Sony out, which is probably the most popular brand in terms of in the mirrorless market. I did try it, and I do respect what they're trying to do, and there are a lot of people on the internet as well as outside who will tell you they make the best and the most powerful machines out there, and that's what they are. And unfortunately, that just is the problem for me, that they are machines, loaded machines. They're brilliant in what they're doing, but they end up being tools. And now, this is where I think I should make it clear that I do not subscribe to the school of thought that a camera is merely a tool. I think that a camera is also a part of the history of photography. Now, I will talk more about this idea of mine in another video some other time, but suffice to say for now, I wanted a camera that was an experience, that would make me want to pick it up, go out, take photographs. I did not want something in hand that just allowed me to do something that I just had to do. I just do not want photography to be that for me. I want photography to be the thing that drives me every day to get out of my bed and do something. With that in mind, I could not find anything else other than Fujifilm that gives that kind of an experience. The tactile experience of holding a Fujifilm camera. And now this is not something that only I am saying. Look it up. Go to any other YouTuber who has talked about Fujifilm. They will all tell you that ergonomics, sure, but just the tactile experience, to hold it, to feel it, the weight of it, is just something that takes you back to the analog days. And it's just perfection in that aspect alone. Now, when I had decided that I am going to go with Fujifilm and going to upgrade only within the Fujifilm camera system, the Fuji X-H1 was already out in the market and was available. And I loved the camera because of its image quality. That I went on YouTube and every other site that had reviewed it and looked at the images and looked at the sample videos that were posted. And it did have some, and it does have some shortcomings which I was fine with. And I decided that I'm going to wait and I'm going to buy it eventually, but I also needed another camera so that that camera could overcome whatever shortcomings there were on the X-H1. Now, it took me enough time that the X-T3 came out. Now, this is a camera that has baffled a lot of people out there, and again, go to any reviewer and see the reactions to this camera. Keeping the small form factor, it has taken the video capabilities all the way beyond that any other Fujifilm camera has ever gone, and it is one of the best out there in the camera market. So the moment that the X-T3 came out, I got both the cameras. I got the X-H1 and the X-T3 to work with the two different cameras for two different reasons. One is going to be my primary stills camera, and the other is going to be my primary video camera. Ironically though, even though X-H1 is the camera that was pushed by Fujifilm as their video-centric camera, I end up using the X-T3 a lot more for video, and the X-H1 remains my primary stills camera. Now, don't get me wrong, the video on the X-H1 is amazing as well, but the X-T3 is just more powerful and a much more stable machine and has better autofocus. It does a lot better as a video camera. And if you're doing video seriously, you're going to put your camera on a gimbal or on a Steadicam, which does not require the internal body stabilization that the X-H1 has to offer. With all of this, of course, this is my X-H1 with the battery grip, because the battery on the body alone is famously not adequate. And with this camera, I got the X-T3, which is the camera on which this video is being shot right now, using the 16 to 55 mm zoom lens, which is something that I bought with these cameras. I also bought the 10 to 24 mm f4 and the 50 to 140 f2.8. I have already owned two other lenses. One is the 18 to 55 kit lens, which is famously and surprisingly an amazing lens. And the other one is probably one of my favorite lenses ever, the 35 mm 1.4. Very slow lens, very slow in terms of autofocus, quite loud and sometimes very inaccurate, but the image quality is just brilliant. And most of the photographs that I've shot in the past 3 years were shot with this lens. Now I have 4 zoom lenses and 1 prime lens. The reason for that is that I plan to shoot a whole range of things. I am going to be a professional, and I am already a professional. I've already gotten into it. I am shooting an entire range of things that includes events, weddings, landscapes, portraiture, product, fashion, and lifestyle in general, interiors, architecture. And I need a focal range that is not limiting. And these lenses by Fujifilm, especially the 16 to 55, the 10 to 24, and the 50 to 140, these are zoom lenses that would match quality-wise to almost any prime lens out there. I mean, they're sharp, they're fast, and they are just brilliant, and they're very convenient to carry around as well. 2 of these lenses, which is the 16 to 55 and the 50 to 140, are also weather sealed. The 10 to 24 and the 50 to 140 again are also come with in-body stabilization, internal stabilization. And I think this overall concludes what I have been meaning to say in this video. And just for a clarification, I have been in touch with some people in US and UK through some forums or some Facebook groups. People have asked me, why did you buy all of this? Why don't you just rent it? Well, I live in India, and in India, renting Fujifilm equipment is not really that much of an option because you don't get it. And I was by no means going to go for any other brand anyway. I do not want to shoot with a DSLR anymore. It's a heavy machine, it's bulky, it's too inconvenient. I held it, I hated it, and I do not want to hate the one thing that is going to help me do what I love. So I do not want to get into DSLRs, and I never have. I've never owned a DSLR. So with this, I think I should conclude this video. I hope you liked what I had to say. I hope whatever I have said has made some sense. It's more or less for myself, but also to sort of put it out there. People who are confused at this point whether to buy Fuji or to buy Sony or Panasonic. This is the reason why I got out of it. This is not an objective thing. This is not an objective judgment. It's the reason why I got out of these things. So just don't go by what I have to say and spend that much money on these cameras. Find out what you love. Find out what you really want to do with your camera, and just discover what it is that you really want to shoot and how you want to shoot it. We are going to talk more about these things in the videos to come, but for now I think this is something that I should clarify. And I hope you liked it. I hope you liked the video. I hope I did fairly well considering how this is my first video. If you like it, please give a thumbs up. If you don't like it, please leave a response, please leave a feedback. But please do subscribe and click on the notification button so that you keep getting updated with every new video that I come up with. And with this, I conclude this video, and I really look forward for you to give your response and feedback. If there's anything that you would like me to do, if there's anything that you think I should do differently, if there's anything that you think I should not do at all that I've probably done in this video, please let me know, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.